Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 87, text 2. Shri Shuka Vacha Buddhindriya Mana Pranam Jananam Ashrajat Prabhu Matrartam Cha Bhavatam Cha Atmane Kalpanaya Cha Shri Shukavacha Buddhindriya Mana Pranam Jananam Ashrajat Prabhu Matratam Cha Bhavatam Cha Atmane Kalpanaya Cha. Shri Sukha Uvacha. Sukadev Goswami said, Buddhi, material intelligence, Indriya, senses, Manaha, mind, Pranan, and vital air, Jananam, of the living entities, Asrijat, sent forth, Prabhu, the Supreme Lord, Matra, of sense gratification, Artam, for the sake, Cha, and Bhava, of birth, and the activities that follow it, Artam, for the sake, Cha, and Atmane, for the soul, and his attainment of happiness in his next life. Akalpanaya, for his ultimate abandonment of material motives. Cha, and. Translation and purport. Shukadev Goswami said, the Supreme Lord manifested the material intelligence, senses, mind, and vital air of the living entities, so that they could indulge their desires for sense gratification, take repeated births to engage in fruitive activities, become elevated in future lives, and ultimately attain liberation. Purport. At the dawn of creation, when the conditioned living entities lay dormant within the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu, he initiated the process of creation by sending forth the coverings of intelligence, mind, and so on for the living entity's benefit. As stated here, Vishnu is the independent Lord, Prabhu, and the living entities are his jana, dependents. Thus we should understand that the Lord creates the cosmos entirely for the living entity's sake. Compassion is his sole motive. By providing the living entities with gross and subtle bodies, the Supreme Lord enables them to pursue sense gratification and, in the human form, religiosity, economic development, and liberation. In each body, the conditioned soul utilizes senses for enjoyment, and when he comes to the human form, he must also discharge various duties assigned to him at the different stages of his life. If he faithfully discharges his duties, he earns more refined and extensive enjoyment in the future. And if not, he is degraded. And when the soul eventually hankers to be freed from material life, the path of liberation is always available. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that in this verse, the repeated use of the word cha, and, indicates the importance of all of what the Lord provides, not only the path of liberation, but also the paths of gradual elevation through religious life and appropriate sense enjoyment. In all their endeavors, the living entities depend on the Lord's mercy for success. Without intelligence, senses, mind, and vital air, the living entities cannot achieve anything. Neither elevation to heaven, purification through knowledge, perfection of the eightfold meditational yoga, nor pure devotion through following the process of bhakti-yoga, beginning with hearing and chanting the names of God. How then, if the Supreme arranges all these facilities for the conditioned soul's welfare, can he be impersonal? Far from presenting the absolute truth as ultimately impersonal, the Upanishads speak at great length about his personal qualities. The absolute described by the Upanishads is free from all inferior material qualities, and yet he is omniscient, omnipotent, the master and controller of all, the universally worshipable Lord, he who awards the results of everyone's work, and the reservoir of all eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The Mundaka Upanishad 1:19 states, Yas sarvagyasa sarvavidyasya jnanamayam tapaha. He who is all-knowing, from whom the potency of all knowledge comes, he is the wisest of all. In the words of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4:422, 373, and 124, Sarvasya Vashi Sarvasyeshanaha. He is the Lord and controller of everyone. Yat prithivyan tishtan prithivya antaraha. He who resides within the earth and pervades it. And so kamayata bahusha. He desired, I will become many. Similarly, the Aitareya Upanishad 3:11 states, Sa aikshata tatejo srijata. He glanced at his potency, who then manifested the creation. While the Taittiriya Upanishad declares, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. The Supreme is unlimited truth and knowledge. The phrase, Tattvam Asi, you are that, Chandogya Upanishad 6:8-7, is often cited by impersonalists as a confirmation of the absolute identity of the finite jiva soul with his creator. Shankaracharya and his followers elevate these words to the status of one of the few Mahavakyas, key phrases they say express the essential purport of Vedanta. The leading thinkers of the standard Vaishnava schools of Vedanta, however, vociferously disagree. Vociferously. Whew. Vociferously disagree. If you don't know what that word means, it means, yeah, they disagree vociferously. I guess it comes from the term vo. Vo is vak, vo, voice, right? So if one is vociferous, that means, like me, loud. Ha! I disagree, yes. I promised I'd keep everyone awake. So we can do that. I mean, this is a long purport. I think I'm only halfway through it. So we have to have a little, interjection. We were talking about it this morning, that when in the Krishna book, when we reach this chapter, right, that we're in now, the prayers of the personified Vedas, then, okay. We've been hearing, Krishna Leela and killing demons and all this wonderful, enjoyable activity. Now we're going to listen to prayers. But I have been encouraged recently by some of our teachers. We were at Madhva and I, and my good wife Atita Guna. We just came from retreats at Govardhan with His Holiness Sachinanda Maharaj and Bhurijan Prabhu. And I've become very intrigued because I think it was Sachinanda Maharaj who was directing us. You need to read and you need to study these prayers of the personified Vedas. They're filled. I mean, this whole exchange began with Parikshit inquiring, well, how can the Vedas point to bhakti? This is the question. We'll hear later on how Vishwanath, well, I'll point to that anyway. But when we go through these prayers, as we go through them, we'll find that they're all pointed to bhakti. And here, so far, we've been hearing also, again and again, we've been hearing various actual Vedic statements. And that's what we're going to try to explore. How do these Vedic statements, particularly there's one that I wanted to explore, that we just said, so kamayata bahushyam. So we'll get back to that. But let's just try to finish. All right, so vociferously disagree. Do we all vociferously disagree? Yeah. If you all disagree with this Mayavadi idea that Tattvamasi means thou art that, means you and I remember, but fortunately most of you didn't, hopefully, did not go through the period of, some of it, it's Piari probably. Oh, you were in the military, so maybe you missed out on some of the wildness of the 60s. Okay. So I remember, some of these trips, we called them, where, yes, I am you and you are me, and because, this is called word jugglery, right? So you're an I, I'm an I. So I and me and you and me and you and I and me and we are all one. Yes. Tattvamasi, you are that. You are me and I am you and we are all together. Anyway, that's okay if we put it in relationship to Krishna. Yes, We are all together. We are all his jiva energy. Eko Bahu Shyam. So we'll talk about that. But, yes, we are one and different. Acharyas Ramanuja, Madhva, Baladev, Vidyabhushan, and others have offered numerous alternative explanations according to a systematic study of the Upanishads and other Shrutis. The Shrutis. These are the Shrutis that we're going to be hearing from. And as we hear from these Shrutis, we'll begin to understand how from their mood they obtained the greatest fortune to come to be with Krishna and to dance with him in his rasa dance. These same, whether they're the Shrutikara gopis, what is the proper term? Something like that. Yeah. In the rasa dance, and there's different rasa dances. There's more intimate, and then there's a name for the community dance. I can't remember the name. Anybody remember? Anyway, there are sometimes when Krishna engages in his rasa dance, it's like, come along, every qualified gopi. In those dances, then the Shrutikara gopis, the rishi, the rishis from Dandakaranya, who wanted to have this service, they get to come. But there are other times when it's more intimate. So the Shrutis. The question Maharaj Parikshit has submitted here, namely, how can the Vedas directly refer to the absolute truth, has been answered by Sukadev Goswami. The Lord created intelligence and other elements for the sake of the conditioned living beings. A skeptic may object that this answer is irrelevant. The Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentary gives an example. Say, I ask you, what is for lunch? And you say, I'm going, the moon is rising tonight at 8:15. I asked you what's for lunch, and you told me about the moon? So one may ask, well, Maharaj Parikshit asks, how can the Vedas directly refer to the absolute truth? And Sukadeva Goswami says, well, the Lord created intelligence and other. It's not a direct answer. But Sukadeva Goswami's answer is not actually irrelevant. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains, answers to subtle questions must often be phrased indirectly. As Lord Krishna himself states in his instructions to Uddhava in the Bhagavatam 11:21-35, Parokshavad Rishya Paroksham Mamacha Priyam. The Vedic seers and mantras deal in esoteric terms, and I also am pleased by such confidential descriptions. Esoteric terms. They're, I guess, Parokshavad is that, what Parokshavad means. It's the meaning is subtle. It's hidden. It's not obvious. And Krishna says, I like this. And we find this in his Leela, especially with his gopis, and sometimes his Madhu Mangal is also good at this, at introducing, talking about things, but in a way that seems totally different, but within it there is the meaning. And by And Krishna is like, maybe he likes also riddles, perhaps. I don't know. We do, right? Many of us like to solve riddles. How many times you get a riddle and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to solve this riddle. And you feel so happy when you do. So the pleasure of riddles and esoteric meaning and bringing this out, the pleasure we feel is just a reflection of the pleasure that Krishna feels in everything. Everything that we're trying to enjoy, and that's what we're going to try to come to. Just have to finish this purport. Okay. In the present context, the impersonalists on whose behalf Parikshit Maharaj asked his question cannot appreciate the direct answer. So here it says that Parikshit is asking his question on behalf of the impersonalists. So this is another instance of how Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna was doing the same thing. That on behalf of those who need to hear, even though he knows. I'm reminded, and I have to go off in a little tangent, but we were in Govardhan, and we were hearing about the meeting that Krishna had with so many different personalities at Kurukshetra. And one of the groups that he met were the sages. Now, the sages and munis. I don't remember the whole list, but I would imagine, and of course we're not supposed to, but we can imagine, we can, anyhow. Maybe it says somewhere that some of them may have been impersonalists. It's possible. So many different people were in the world when Krishna was present. Not everyone could see him. Not everyone could see him as he is. So some of these sages immersed in there, and one indication that I feel that many of them, some of them may have been in that mood. There were a few that spoke, and they spoke about Krishna in a personal way. But what surprised me was after saying maybe just a few words, it appears, they came, they were saying a few words, they praised Krishna, and then they prepared to leave. They were going. Until Vasudeva speaks up and asks a question about that the response, Narada Muni responds, because he asked about what are the fruitive activities that one performs when one is doing fruitive activities? I can't remember exactly, but it was like, karma kandya. And Narada was saying, this is interesting. Krishna, Vasudeva is your son, and you're asking these kind of questions as if you think he's... And then later on, what happens is that they respond to his question, and they ultimately talk to him about doing sacrifices, and Vasudeva takes the opportunity and says, please do sacrifice here. And thus, a big, huge sacrifice takes place, and everyone gets to be engaged in service. These sages had come, they'd given some words, but they didn't get a chance to do service. And now they did some service. So similarly, Parikshit is asking on the behalf. So instead, Srila Sukadeva Goswami gives an indirect reply. Quote, you say, the impersonalist, that Brahman is indescribable by words. But if the Supreme Lord had not created the intelligence, mind, and senses, then sound and other objects of perception would all be just as indescribable as your Brahman. you would have been blind and deaf since birth, and would know nothing about physical forms and sounds. What to speak of the Absolute? So, just as the merciful Lord has given us all facilities of perception for experiencing and describing to others the sensations of sight, sound, and so forth, in the same way, He may give someone the receptive capacity to realize Brahman. He may, if He chooses, create some extraordinary way for words to function, apart from their ordinary references to material substances, qualities, categories, and actions, that will enable them to express the supreme truth. He is, after all, the Almighty Lord, Prabhu, and He can easily make the indescribable describable. So let's try to understand what's just been said, because this is packed up. Okay, let's go back. What was the question? What was the question that Parikshit was asking on behalf of the impersonalists?
How can the Vedas refer to directly the absolute truth?
Yes. How can they do this? So it's why are they saying this? Because they are thinking that the absolute truth, Brahman, is impersonal, and thus is, what's the word used here? Indescribable. Indescribable with words. So, how can the Vedas describe the absolute? Because the Vedas are words. The Vedas are all words. That's what they are. They're words. So then, what's the response? First, first response is that without senses to hear, you wouldn't be able to perceive anything. What to speak of the absolute truth? And then what's really special here is where Vishwanath explains here that He, talking of Krishna, He, if He chooses, creates some extraordinary way for words to function. Some extraordinary way for words to function. Now, what comes to your mind right now? Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna has made these words. They are words. They're sounds. But He has made this extraordinary way for these words to be Him. And when it comes to the Vedic aphorisms, similarly, Janmadyasya yataha, these words begin to convey Him, His absolute nature, His qualities can be perceived through words. How many times, Prabhupada was confronted in this way, right? A few times. Like, how can you use words? These are all words. You're using words. This is the truth, God. It's greater than words. And I think there was one famous one who would speak like this and say, there's no need for scriptures, there's no need, there's all words. And then Prabhupada's response is, then shut up. You say there's no need for words. Why don't you be quiet? What are you doing? You're just spilling out words. And there's no meaning, so shut up. I don't suggest, you may not need to, I don't know, here we are. I was reflecting the other day that I just reached the young age of 74, and I was reflecting that this was Srila Prabhupada's age when I first met him. He was 74 in 1970. And I was reflecting, whoa, what a gulf of difference, where I'm at 74 and where he was at that time. Energy-wise, I can say maybe I can keep up a little bit. But spiritually, ooh, what a gulf, what a gulf. Of course, that's Srila Prabhupada. And I am what I am. I was going to begin this class. I was going to go back to the first verse. There's an introduction that Vishwanath gives, and I'll just try to remember it. Basically, he says that I'm sitting here, I'm speaking, I become a merchant for jewels, but I don't know anything about jewels. But still, I'm not ashamed, because at least I can entertain. So I hope that maybe I can, I can wave my hands, I can jump up and down. So I have a little ability to do that. So, he's the Lord. And he can easily make the indescribable describable. This is what Sukadeva is trying to convey. From your impersonal view of the Vedas, being words, especially when you speak of the Rig Veda and the Rig Vedas are just hymns. But within it, there's all this meaning. So, we'll try to finish the purport. Lord Matsya assures King Satyavrata that the absolute truth can be known from the words of the Vedas. Madhya mahimanam cha param brahmeti sabditam vetsyasya anugrahitam me samprashnaya vivritam hridi. You will be thoroughly advised and favored by me, and because of your inquiries, everything about my glories, this is Matsya avatar, which are known as Param Brahma, will be manifest within your heart. Thus you will know everything about me. Because of your inquiries, you will be thoroughly advised and favored by me. And you'll learn about me. It will manifest in your heart. Thus you will know everything about me. The fortunate soul who has been graced by the Supreme Lord with divine inquisitiveness will ask questions about the nature of the Absolute. And by hearing the answers given by great sages which are recorded in the Vedic literatures, he will come to understand the Lord as he is. Thus only by the special mercy of the Supreme Person does Brahman become Shabditam, literally denoted by words. Otherwise, without the Lord's exceptional grace, the words of the Vedas cannot reveal the absolute truth. So Sukadev's answer is that it's by Krishna's mercy that the Vedas can describe the absolute truth. Without that, yes, you're right, impersonal yogi. They're just words. But by the mercy of the origin, because where do the words come from? Where do they come from? The words come from intelligence and mind, which is coming from Krishna, and senses, the tongue to speak them, the ears to hear them. All of this is created by Krishna for the benefit of the jivas. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggested the word buddhi in this verse, spoken by Sukadev Goswami, can indicate the Mahatattva from which evolve the various expansions of ether, such as sound, which is designated here as Indriya. Mritartam then means for the sake of using transcendental sound to describe Brahman, since for that precise purpose the Supreme Lord inspired Prakriti to evolve ether and sound. In Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sarata Darshani commentary, he explains 3 or 4 times, this can mean like this, or it can mean like this, or he expounds. This is one of the wonders of the Vedas. And the words that are used can be understood in because yes, one word can't do it. You cannot use just one word to describe Krishna. Although Krishna does come close. The word Krishna does come pretty close. It's that I've always felt, although I don't know if there's any direct reference, that we extol, we love Krishna because the meaning encapsulates, in one sense, everything about him. He's all attractive. So all the, he's Govinda, he's Gopinath, all these qualities, he's Nandanandana, he's Yashodanandana, these all describe his activities, and all of them, what are they? What effect do they have on us? They attract us. When we hear about him as Gopinath, when we hear him out as Govinda, we become attracted. So Krishna, all attractive, in one sense, encapsulates all of his other names. But to fully experience Krishna, we have to hear about him and his Leela, his activities, again, through the Vedic Shabda. Let's see. Whoa. I can make it. A further understanding of the purpose of creation is spoken by the words bhavartam and atmane kalpanaya, if the reading kalpanaya instead of akalpanaya is taken. Bhavarta means for the good of the living entities. Worship, kalpanam, of the Supreme Self, atmane, is the means by which the living entities can fulfill the divine purpose for which they exist. So, the phrase or the words in this purport that really struck me most. What's a phrase that most of you should know that begins Eko? That's Eko Bahunam, but there's another one that's in this, but it's not in this. Eko Bahu Shyam, right? So this phrase is repeated. Srila Prabhupada repeats this phrase many, many places. You can look it up in Vanipedia. As that, Eko Bahu Shyam. Eko, one, becomes many. Now, this phrase is used in different Upanishads, but in the one quoted here, which is Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, it said, So kamayata bahushyam. So kamayata bahushyam. That why is eko bahushyam? Why? Kamayata. Kamayata. Kama. Desire. Kama is the root. The Lord, the Supreme, desires. The Supreme Lord desires. He desires. And out of desire, He, one, becomes many because He wants relationships, interaction, leelas, pastimes. He wants these things. He can't enjoy. This morning we were listening, Srila Prabhupada was describing that only in Krishna consciousness, only in bhakti is there actually ananda. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute. What about Brahmananda? We have God brother Brahmananda. So what about, Prabhupada says, there's no Ananda in Brahman. That's why Arurya Krishna Parampadantadaj Patantadado Yashvarangraya. That's why those who pursue the Ananda, I think he does say, there's little. He does give a little, but they come back because they're not getting the Ananda, which is the actual quality of the jiva, is to have Ananda. Krishna is Satchitananda. We are particles of Him. We are also Satchitananda. It is our nature to be blissful. But what's happened? Something's happened. Last night, through my mind was rolling a verse that I've been trying to learn, and I think I kind of got it now. But it was just, I was keep on going. Let me see if I got it. Okay. Krishna Bulya Jeev. Bhoga Vancha Kare. Pasate Maya Jabatiya Dore. This morning, because I learned it, but I was wondering, what is the meaning of Japatiya? It's not japa. It has nothing to do, maybe it does, but it's not japa. By doing japa? Yeah. And then I asked you, I think, what's it here? And he said, Japatiya. Japatiya is like, yeah, right, like that. Forcefully, immediately. Krishna Bhulya, forgetting Krishna. Jiva Bhoga Vancha, desiring Bhoga. That was one of the first words we learned, right? When we joined that's Bhoga. Get away from that, that's Bhoga. That's not for you, that's Bhoga. There's the prasad. There's the Bhoga room and then we learn Bhoga. Don't get away from Bhoga. Bhoga's for Krishna. Bhoga Ishvarya Prasaktanam. Bhoga. Krishna is, Bhoga means it's for Krishna. But we think, Bhoga Vancha, we want Bhoga. We want to enjoy the Bhoga. So Bhoga Vancha, desire, kama. Because our desire turned. Krishna Bhulya, forgetting Krishna. We're in this We are, not we're in, we are. Sometimes it's we confuse that Tashta is like some place, the marginal region or something like that. No, it's just, we are Tatashta. We are, by nature, we have this minute independence. We have this tiny independence. We can turn this way or that way. I mean, that's basically it. We can look to Krishna or Krishna Bhuliya Bhogavansha. And as soon as we turn, then Japati Adare. Japati Adare. Maya captures. Japati Adare. Pashate Maya Tare Japati Adare. Soon, it doesn't take long. I think we all have that experience. It's not like, we forget Krishna and we start to think, it's not like, gradually we become in Maya. No, it's like, whoa. And then hopefully the same thing does happen when we turn back. And Krishna, he also quickly takes us. But our conditioning keeps us turning. So let me try to finish the purport. Okay. So, intelligence, mind, and senses are meant to be used for worshiping the Supreme Lord, whether or not the living entity has yet brought them to the stage of transcendental purification. So the Vedas, that's what they do. They show how to engage our mind, as even akama sarvakama va moksha kama udaridi tivrena bhakti-yogena yajeta purusham param. That whether we have desire for Krishna or desire for this material world, still the Vedas engage us like those sages in some sacrifices, and we do some service. How both purified and unpurified devotees use their intelligence, mind, and senses in worshiping the Lord is described in reference to the following quote from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. Satpundarika nayanam megabam Vaidyutambaram vibhujam mona mudradyam vanamalinam ishwaram. The Supreme Lord, appearing in his two-armed form, had divine lotus eyes, a complexion the color of a cloud, and garments that resembled lightning. He wore a garland of forest flowers, and his beauty was enhanced by his pose of meditative silence. The transcendental intelligence and senses of the Lord's perfect devotees correctly perceive his purely spiritual beauty, and their realizations are echoed in the Gopala Tapani Shruti's comparison of Lord Krishna's eyes, body, and clothing to a lotus, a cloud, and lightning. On the other hand, devotees on the level of sadhana, who are in the process of becoming purified, have only barely realized the Supreme Lord's boundless spiritual beauty. Nonetheless, by hearing scriptural passages such as this one from the Gopala Tapani Upanishad, they engage in contemplating him to the best of their fledgling ability. Although the neophyte devotees have not yet learned how to fully realize the Lord or meditate steadily on even the effulgence surrounding his body, still they take pleasure in presuming we are meditating on our Lord. And the Supreme Lord, moved by the waves of his boundless mercy, himself thinks, these devotees are meditating on me. When their devotion matures, he draws them to his feet to engage in his intimate service. Thus it is concluded that the Vedas have access to the personal identity of the Supreme only by his mercy. in our Holy Name retreat, I think it was, we heard a beautiful, was it a letter? I think, where Srila Prabhupada speaks. He says, don't try to see Krishna, but act in a way that Krishna wants to see you? No. That he does say that somewhere. But here he said something a little different. He said, act in a way that Krishna wants to call you. Call you. As described here, he draws them to his feet. He draws them. Act in a way. So here, how to act? You can say, well, I know this is, in our retreats, we're asked to meditate a little, visualize, right? And I sit there and I try to visualize, and I have trouble. I have difficulty. I think, it's a little easier if I just remember a picture or something, but to actually, with my mind, visualize Krishna's form. And so I remember a year ago or so, it was like, visualize Radha and Krishna, and I could never manage to visualize them together. So Radha, Krishna. So even though we cannot do it, our attempts to do this are such that Krishna sees it, and he thinks, these devotees are meditating on me. And when their devotion matures, he draws them to his feet to engage in his intimate service. Jai, Jai Srila Prabhupada. And thank you to these devotees who gave us this wonderful purport. It's a whole team, as you may know. Hridayananda Maharaj, Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, Dravida Prabhu, they all work together to produce these wonderful purports following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. So it's 9 o'clock. I don't know, boss.
Take one or two questions, but
Okay.
limitedly.
Okay. I will answer. Choose? All right. Okay. Let's see. You raise. I'll close my eyes. You raise your hands, and then I'll see what when I open them up.
Are you visualizing?
I'm visualizing. Yes. Any questions or comments? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Pancharatna Prabhu, fantastic class. Thank you so much. In the beginning of
I could keep people awake. That's all.
In the beginning of the purport, it's mentioned that the Lord does the creation, the material creation, for the living entity's sake.
Yes.
And compassion is the only motive for the creation. So I heard in one beautiful class, one devotee was saying, the material creation is Krishna's love letter to the living entity. So along this theme, could you kindly speak more on this theme?
Yes, this is Chaitanya Charitamrita describes this as his Shrishti Leela. And I think that, like you're saying, that Krishna loves. What's the most confidential knowledge that Krishna describes in the Bhagavad-Gita? He says, this is the most common, several times, this is the most, more, but what's the final place that Krishna says, this is the most confidential? Just before that. He said, but I need to memorize this verse, but it's just before Manmana Bhava Madbhakta, where he says that basically, I love you. That's basically what he says. That know that I love you. You're my dearest friend. I'm your dearest friend, and you're my friend. This Bhagavad-Gita is sometimes described as Krishna's love song to the jivas. So, yeah, the whole creation is all made by Krishna to rescue us. First, to give us what we're asking, just like children. We're his children. We want to enjoy. We want to. We're. Now, how that happens, I'm not going to go into that. Anadi, Bule Jeev. That is inconceivable. The anadi quality. But the fact is that some or other, we have this desire, kama. We are by nature with desire. Krishna has desire. Krishna, the Supreme, has desire. How can we not have desire? Desire is our nature. There's even from the material point of view, there's a question of where does desire come from? There's one materialistic view that even consciousness is the result of desire. The desire comes, the organic, creatures want. They want. Everything wants. There's even the microbe wants. The virus wants. Desire. There's a need. There's something that's not there and we want it. So need and desire is the nature. Our desire to enjoy independently of Krishna is Maya. Because it cannot happen. We just heard everything is coming from Krishna. If we want to desire, yes, all right, desire. I'll give you what you're wanting to desire. But you'll find out that without me, it's in New York terms, meh. That's only New York. Any New Yorkers here? No. Meh. So yeah, so. Yiddish term. So yes. It's all his mercy. That's the other point of it, that is his mercy. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.